All right, Jordan, like I said before, we did not have a show last week. So a lot has happened. We hit on the recruiting stuff, the decommitments, the commitments, but a lot more happened during Clemson's bye week. There's a lot going on with this program. Obviously, the season has not started off the way that we envisioned. Starting the season 3-4, having 4 losses before we hit the month of November was not how we saw this coming into the season. And to make matters worse, injuries are starting to pile up. One of the big injuries, obviously, Cade Klubnik had to miss last game with a high ankle sprain to his right ankle. And then also, I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart. Brian Wesco had a pretty serious injury last game where he was on a punt return, got kind of upended, landed on his neck. Pretty scary thing. They obviously took him to the hospital. He spent several days in the hospital getting various tests. Sounds like he's going to make a full recovery and he's going to be okay, but he is gone for the rest of the season. So, Jordan, your kind of thoughts on these injuries and how they're piling up. It's on the offensive line as well. Tristan Lee has been out for majority of the season with an ankle injury as well. You had Colin Dabo go down last game as well. So it's just these injuries are starting to pile up in key position groups and really testing this Clemson team's depth right now. So where do you think we stand coming out of the bye week on some of these injuries and how it's going to affect us coming up in the coming weeks?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the big thing is Bryant Wesco. I think probably the biggest news for injury wise for Clemson. Over the bye week. I mean, realistically, I mean, I think my biggest question and heading into this game Saturday, how does this offense function without him? I mean, he was such a big part of their passing game, big play machine. I mean, he's just a tough guy to cover, and having him on the field just made this offense better. I don't know how they're going to replace him. Obviously, Tristan Smith and Cole Turner were named as co-starters on the depth chart that just came out. Obviously, they're both going to have to step into bigger roles in terms of snap count and playmaking. Obviously, we saw Tristan Smith make himself a really, really big play in that game against SMU. So, hopefully that's some momentum for him, moving forward. And maybe it's a sign to the coaches that, hey, this kid can play, and maybe you actually do need to throw him the football and give him targets. I like how Vizina put it when he threw that. When he was asked about that play, he was just like, "I just threw it up to the tallest guy that can jump really high."
Hey, guess what? Sometimes it works.
Yeah. I mean, imagine that. So, yeah, the receiver rotation I think is going to be interesting heading into this game. Obviously, Antonio Williams is going to have to. You're going to see him, involved a lot more, of course. TJ Moore, he's got to build on that performance against SMU. He had himself a really nice game, made some really big catches, 2 touchdown catches, over 100 yards. Second 100-yard game, but he just, the games in between have been, really, really hot and cold. So hopefully, that, he builds momentum. And obviously the question is, who's going to be, playing quarterback? Is Cade Klubnik, how ready is he going to be to step back into the swing of things if he does? I just and if he does play, how effective can he be? That's all these questions that this Clemson offense has to answer. And I don't know. I don't know if they're going to be able to answer them Saturday. I mean, they're playing a really good football team, a team that's honestly better than their record and has been playing really good football as of late. The loss to Georgia Tech last week notwithstanding. Talking to and listening to the coaches, listening to Dabo, it's really been interesting to hear some of his comments about, how this team is, how this team has treated the bye week, how this team is kind of sticking together, or attempting to stick together, and how they're navigating all of this. Because I mean, when you have a season that's effectively over, basically everything you wanted to accomplish is now out the window.
Yeah.
And so early and in such a fashion that we haven't seen here in quite some time. The question is how engaged is this football team? I've heard some very mixed things about that. Some things encouraging, some things really not. With this bye week and the history of this program as of late, coming off of bye weeks, doesn't inspire a ton of confidence. I will say that.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much going on with this football team right now, and you got to wonder heading into November, are they going to truly be able to stick together? I know what the coaches are saying, and I know what the players are going to say when they're asked by the media, but how truly bought in is everybody on this football team? We're going to find out in November. I'm not so sure this Clemson team is done losing games. I'll be completely honest. I don't have a ton of faith in this group right now. They're banged up in a lot of key positions. The offensive line has not played well really at any point in time, like consistently this year. They've had their moments here or there, but consistently they haven't played well all season. And now they're more banged up than ever, which, doesn't spell a whole lot of confidence. And you're going to have you think Cade may be back for this game, so you're going to have a hobble quarterback behind an offensive line that is underperforming in a big way this season. Oh, and by the way, they got a bunch of injuries that are piling up as well. So, will Tristan Lee finally be back and be able to play significant snaps? That's going to be a big question. Colin Sadler obviously won't be. Walker Parks, how banged up is he going to be? Is he going to be able to go at all? These are just questions that are going to have to be answered, and it's going to really affect what Clemson can do, both running the football and pass protection. And then obviously the loss of Wesco is huge, man. Like, it can't be understated. He's your leading receiver. He's got 6 touchdowns on the season, over 500 yards, and you lost him. This is why. I am not a fan of players like him, of his caliber, being on kick return or punt return or anything like that. I'm not a fan of it. Find somebody else that's athletic, that is not a crucial part of your offense, that if they were to get hurt, it would be detrimental to your offense. Those plays, kick returns and punt returns, that's where a lot of injuries happen to people. And I just don't – I've never liked – putting your star athletes out there on that. I know he's good at it. I know he's capable, and he can make big plays, but I just don't like it for the exact reason of what happened. You lose him for the rest of the season. This team's got a lot of answers yet to be answered yet. And coming off of this bye week worries me as well. Clemson traditionally does not start well off of bye weeks. You can go back several seasons to kind of factor that out, and they don't play particularly well out of the bye week. This Duke team is coming in, and we'll get into them in a minute. But it's going to be interesting to see what this Tiger team is made of. And I think we'll find out early in the Duke game whether this team – whether all the things that Dabo is saying and is true, whether they truly are sticking together, whether truly are going to try to make the best of, whatever's left of this season. You got Duke, you got Florida State, you got Louisville, you got Furman, and you got South Carolina left on the docket. That's your games that you have left. And you can lose a lot of those games. So I think one of the big things, Jordan, is Dabo's comments on Cade Klubnik today were cryptic, I guess, or he was kind of playing it off and being a little coy and saying that he did everything we asked him to do. Well, that wasn't exactly the question, but he's not going to give up any information. What are your thoughts on Cade? Do you think he's going to be back starting this week with that high ankle sprain, or do you think it's a possibility that we see Chris Vizina for a second week in a row?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a realistic possibility that you see Christopher Vizina again. I mean, I just, with these high ankle sprains, they are really tough to have a quick turnaround from. Those are very difficult injuries to manage. And I haven't been tapped in. I don't know who's been taking first team reps so far and during the week. But I'm not overly optimistic about Kay Klubnik playing on Saturday. I could be proven wrong. But it just it's one of those injuries that I think can be really, really difficult to deal with. So I mean, it probably is going to be a game time decision, and I'm not optimistic. And I will say I do think Christopher Rosina gave the coaching staff some confidence that he can operate this offense.
Right.
It certainly wasn't a perfect performance against SMU, but that was the most explosive really they've been in terms of passing offense against a somewhat decent team that they've had in a while. But then again, SMU's defense was known to be pretty vulnerable against the pass, so it really is going to be difficult to kind of see what how much of that actually will translate into a game against Duke. So I don't know. We'll see. I'm not overly optimistic about Cade Klubnik playing on Saturday.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I'm kind of leaning more towards we're gonna see Christopher Vizina for another week. I don't have a lot of I mean, if you saw Cade, I'm sure you did. You were at the game, but even on the TV broadcast, like if you saw Cade warming up, like he could barely walk. Like
Yeah.
when he went to drop back, it was like, I mean, and granted, he's had a whole nother week. So it's going to be 2 weeks removed from where he was right there at that moment. But again, I just don't know. And I don't know. They're not gonna give us a ton of information on it, so we're not really gonna know. But I'm actually leaning more towards if I was to make a prediction that we're gonna see, I'm like 60-40 that we'll see Chris Vizina versus Cade Klubnik. I just don't know how healthy that ankle is going to be. I know they're saying that he's doing everything he can, but again, if he's back there and he can't really move, that might be more of a liability than just letting Chris Vizina roll and seeing what you got and seeing if you can pull out a win in the Valley against a Power 4 opponent, which is far less than a gimme for the Tigers at this point in time.
No, that's certainly a way to put it. And it's going to be difficult, I think, for it's going to be difficult for this offense really to kind of find itself. I mean, because with all of these new these moving parts and these new pieces that are going to have to play more snaps. And that brings me to a point that I think has been the most frustrating. Just kind of listening, and with all the things coming out of media. How many times are we going to hear we need to play this guy more? We need to. He should be. We need to do that. This guy needs to be on the field more. I'm really over that. And it's like, okay. I mean, at this point, and you say it every week. I mean, when it was first. I mean, it was Tristan Smith at this. Oh yeah, we need to get him on the field more, and then you barely see him until that last game, and then the next thing you know is you've got. Tyler Brown now is the newest one. And then you're talking about the running back rotation. It's like, oh, we need to play Gideon Davidson. We need to play David Eziamume. Like, how many times is this, how many times are we going to have to hear this and not see it on the field? I mean, somebody is in charge of the rotations, the position coaches largely. And how many, when is someone actually going to be held accountable when that, when the game is played and you're not actually playing these guys? I mean, I'm really, really over it at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the more frustrating things that has kind of been a part of Clemson this season, and really going back to last year, specifically when you're talking about the running back rotation. Last year, we rode Maffa basically until his arm fell off at the end of the season. And then we had to put Adam Randall in the against Texas in the playoffs. Um, and then we come out this season and we're doing the exact same thing, just with Adam Randall instead of Phil Maffa. You're not developing the backs behind him. You're not giving Easy E or Gideon Davison any sort of run. Like, I mean, these dudes are getting like 1 and 2 carries a game, if that, if they're lucky. And then, you got Adam Randall playing all these snaps. Like, there's just no purpose for it. I'm not saying that Adam Randall's played bad, because he's probably been one of the brighter spots on the offense this year. And he doesn't need to be benched in any way, shape, or form. But like, you got to get these other running backs some more burn. Like, these are your future backs. These are the guys that are hopefully going to be there next year if you don't run them off by not playing them, and if they don't, enter the transfer portal and look for another opportunity. Gideon Davison. You got to play this dude, man. Like, give him some carries, give him some significant snaps. Same thing with the wide receivers, Tyler Brown. Like, why is he not playing more? Why is he not getting more snaps? And I think like this really falls on Dabo to me, because one of the most frustrating things about it is he comes out, as you point out, week after week, saying that these players need to get more snaps, but nothing changes. Like, Dabo, you're the head coach. Go over there to your position coach and be like, hey, check it out. This week, you better have a better rotation. Like, you do have control of that. Yes, the position coaches run the rotation for their position group, but you have veto authority. You can go out there and do whatever you want. It's your team. So I'm sick of hearing it. And I'm really sick of Garrett Riley at this point abandoning the run. It's just like, I don't know, man. I remember when he first came, the whole dirt raid thing, like, that was a load of crap, dude. Like, this dude hates running the football at this point. Like, I'm convinced he just hates running the football. There's no way. There's no way. And you got a bevy of backs back there that I believe can produce at a high level. And you just refuse. You refuse to lean on it. You refuse to get any sort of momentum when it comes to running the football. He abandons it far too often. So it's frustrating at this point. It really is. And there's really no excuse for the stuff that we're talking about. These are very easy fixes. You should be able to look at your rotation and be like, man, I really messed that up. But apparently they think they're doing fine, because they come out with the same rotation every single week. And then Dabo trots himself out there in the press conference like, yeah, we should get that guy more snaps. Yeah, we got to do better at the rotation. Whatever, man. Nothing changes.
Yeah. I mean, and listen, like, it's really difficult because, at the same time, it's like they're not good at running the football. Like, and so it's one of those things where you're trying to figure out where the root of the problem is. Is they can't run the football because Garrett Riley won't run it, or is it because Garrett Riley won't run it because they can't run the football? And maybe it's a little bit of both. I really don't think this coaching staff at all, this offensive coaching staff, has really meshed together just over these couple of years. It has not translated in the way that we thought. I have some conspiracy theories about that I will not share here, but I think there's really is a disconnect from the coaches and how they've meshed together, and how they go about putting together this offense. And in turn, I think that there's a disconnect with the players because it's just not a well coached unit when you watch them. I mean, the offensive line is not anywhere close to what we thought it might be. Even, obviously the injuries have not helped, and you've had to thrust some guys into positions that they really didn't want to put in those positions too early. But it just from the first game, it just has not been super functional. I mean, I think the running backs have done what they could. I mean, Adam Randall has certainly played his tail off. But he's not Superman. He's not a running back that's going to just make things happen despite a terrible offensive line. That's not going to happen. That's not who you have. I don't think you have anybody in that room that can do that. And just schematically, because of it, you're all over the place. And I'm very much out on just this offense in general. I mean, this scheme. I really think the writing is pretty much on the wall right now about where things are headed. But I do think honestly there is a world if they had gone about things differently when Garrett Riley was hired, where things could have worked out better. I could spend a whole show talking about kind of the missteps I think there have been. And a lot of it's in hindsight. I'm not going to be the one to say, "Oh, I've been saying it all along. This offense ain't going to work." I mean, no, I really did have belief that things were going to start to come together, and the promise they showed last year, they just haven't been able to deliver on it at all. And I think in retrospect, it's for reasons that I think probably could have been avoided, but they are what they are right now, and I don't think there's any hope or any point in trying to force it to work or doing something to fix it. I mean, I really think you gotta scrap the whole thing. And I think you're going to see a lot of that on both sides of the ball, to be honest. I'm really interested to see what changes happen, in the off season. Not just staff wise, but how they go about, how they go about the roster construction for next season. All of that, it's going to be pivotal. One of the most pivotal, maybe the most pivotal off season, I think, for this era of the Dabo Sweeney tenure, because it's sink or swim time. I mean, if you don't correct it, you don't get it right next year. In any sort of way, I don't know when you will. That's just me being honest.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, and this is going to be a really big offseason for Dabo Sweeney, and we're going to find out how serious he is about changing things and getting back trending in the right direction, and that's gonna have to come in the form of some staff changes, and the transfer portal. You're going to have to pick up quite a few players there. And you're just going to have to change some things. What you're doing is not working. What has worked in the past no longer works now. And you have to eventually face that music and realize that real changes need to be made. It's not just a coach here or there. It's a lot of things. So, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Nothing's going to happen between now and the end of the season with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no. I do think I will say this. I mean, for the Clemson fans that are watching this and are pessimistic about, about changes happening, I really think there's going to be push for some really, really massive overhaul. I think Clemson fans underestimate the leadership within the athletic department and the higher ups in terms of how much say they actually have on what happens. Rest assured, there's going to be some really, really uncomfortable conversations had this offseason. I can say that with 100%, and there will be a pressure applied on Dabo and this program. From those inside the athletic department and those involved with it. I can guarantee that. So we'll see what changes that brings, but I have no question in my mind that, we will see some pretty significant changes in more ways than one this offseason.